The final part of our series, ranking every position in FC25. I've kind of decided I don't want to do a goalkeeper tier list because, first of all, I've just stuck with Team of the Year Emi Martinez for a long time, and goalkeepers are the most inconsistent position on the game. You know, like you could use a gold rear goalkeeper and he'll be insane. So we're going to skip this. This is going to be the final one. Now, this is all the pre-Shapeshifters promo centre-backs, if you will. Now, you will notice that there is some Shapeshifter centre-backs in the season pass. The only one here that we've got on the list is Douglas Luiz, but we have not included Oblak, and we've also not included, there was another centre-back. There was another Shapeshifter centre-back in the season pass, which was really good. And we didn't include them, simply put, because no one's got them yet. I've got no experience with them. I've not used them, so we're not ranking them. All of the players here I at least have experience with, whether that's using or playing against, or solid opinions from other people that I know. But without further ado, guys, let's get into it. Best in the game is highest tier, S++ below, S+ tier, S tier, and A++. There's about 70 centre-backs on this list. So look, we're bound to have missed someone. If there's a centre-back that I have missed, let me know in the comments and I'll reply with the tier I would have put them in. Do you want coins to be able to afford the best players on the game? Yeah. Head on over to u7buy.com for the cheapest, fastest, and most reliable coins available. U7buy are currently hosting a super lucky draw. You can win some insane prizes, including coins, players, and even a PS5. Everybody gets a free draw every single day, but you also have the opportunity to earn yourself more draws by completing tasks. For example, for purchasing some coins or a player, you will also receive 2 more entries into the draw. Remember to use my code Davis at checkout for 8% off your order. The links are in the description down below. I always like to start with the best in the game tier, just to kind of give the tier list a spine, if you will. And first in that list for me is Team of the Season Van Dijk. I actually think the Team of the Year Van Dijk goes into the S++ tier, and I'm going to have the 95-foot birthday paired with the Team of the Year. I don't think there's a massive difference in them price-wise. I think 300k, but the Anticipate Plus on the foot birthday, a 5-star weak foot, whereas of course the Team of the Year doesn't have that Anticipate, and the TOTS card for me is just that step above the other two. Look, Team of the Year Van Dijk and Foot Birthday Van Dijk is still going to be absolutely sublime, but I just think that TOTS is that step above. The next player in the best in the game tier for me, guys, is this Tosin card. At 6'6" with an aerial, he's not losing an aerial duel. An Anticipate Plus, a Bruiser Plus, for me, without a doubt, that this 96 Tosin card is also best in the game. 6'6", an absolute monster to play against. Whenever I verse him, or whenever I come up against someone with him at centre back, I'm not looking forward to the game. It's almost like the 95 Evo Thierry Henry Repellent is this Tosin card here, because he's like his kryptonite, if you will. He's Thierry Henry's kryptonite. I find it so hard, even with my Henry, my Team of Year Mbappe, against this Tosin card. Now, another player, and I don't know if this will be the last, we might make some changes, I don't know. But for now, I'm really happy with these 3 being best in the game. I think Pacho is a lock in the best in the game tier as well. I've got Romero and Van de Ven, the Tottenham Europa League winners cards. I've got them both in the S++. Look, there's no particular order in the S++ tier, but I would have them at the higher end of the S++ for sure. Look, S++ still a top tier centre back, one of the best in the game, but I don't quite think the best. I'd still rather a Van Dijk, I'd rather a Tosin, and I'd still rather a Pacho in my opinion anyway. But yeah, Romero and Van de Ven, still incredible, of course, going into the S++ tier. I think this 96 Chalobah card as well, S++, I would rather Tosin, just because of the pure, just good luck against him. 6'6" with an aerial, I feel like it's just a cheat code, really. Like, you're not losing one aerial duel. That's a guarantee. You're just never losing an aerial duel with him. If you do, then fair enough. But also, the Anticipate, but that Bruiser Plus as well is really, really nice. And Chalobah, fantastic. I think he's 6'5" himself. But Anticipate, Intercept, you know, I think I'd still rather Tosin just. But yeah, Chalobah, fantastic card going into the S++ tier. I'm trying to stick with the tiers and like try find a card I'm confident is a step down and go S++. I like filling it out tier by tier rather than saying this 93 Van Dijk and just doing a big guess. Do I put him in the S tier? I'm going to guess he's going to be around S tier though, and I do think Bastoni is going to be the first card in the S+. I think he's still fantastic, but I don't quite think he's S++, mainly due to the fact he is missing, and I did miss this when we were doing a CDR TOTS tier list. The fact he's missing a block and a bruiser, two really important playstyles which he is missing, but otherwise all of his other playstyles are fantastic. He's still going to be great, especially as a left centre back. He is a 5-star weak foot, but as like with that pinged pass as a ball playing defender, I'm not saying use him as a ball playing defender, use him as a natural defender player role, but play the ball with him, right? And with that pinged pass would be really useful. I think 96 Beckenbauer, I'm going to say S tier. Look, S tier is still a good tier, right? It doesn't mean they're bad, and that's the biggest misconception, is if I put a card in A++ or S, it doesn't mean they're bad, guys. It, you know, like if I on this list in the first place, I think they're among the best 70 centre backs in the whole game. I think Van Dijk and 96 Beckenbauer both should be in the S tier. Davinson Sanchez, I'll say his 96 TOTS card is S tier. I think there's an evolution that people are putting him in, or a TOTS upgrade, or something that people are putting him in, I'm pretty sure. If you do have this Sanchez in an evolution, and we do not include evolutions in tier lists, lots of you guys will know that, but just pretend if you do have an evolution for a centre back, just pretend they're in the tier above. So I'll say Davinson Sanchez S tier. He might not have even been an Evo, but I feel like so many people were using him. An Anticipate Plus or something, we could have been cooking in the S+ tier. 96 Europa League winners Danso, I will say a block is nice, slide tackle, pinged pass is selective. I think pinged pass can be a nice playstyle plus, but only if it's paired with an Anticipate or something. His stats are ridiculous, so we're not going to say A++. I'm happy to keep him in the S tier. Archie Gray, you know, Archie Gray is probably the first one I'm going to have to VAR check, whether I want to have him in the S tier or bump him to the S+. He's very versatile, he can play centre back, right back, he can play as a DM. With the Anticipate regular, he's got no bruiser, he's got no block. I think he's more of a fullback or a CDM. As a centre back, I'm going to say S tier. I've got 96 Colwell in the S+ tier, and I'm going Badiashile in the S tier. Colwell, I mean, he's got a regular Anticipate, maybe missing an Anticipate Plus, but still fantastic card. I actually do think with the Incisive though, I'd almost rather use him as a left back fullback, and we did rank him in the fullback tier list, I'm pretty sure in the S++ tier. Was he best in the game for a left back? I don't know, but as a left back, I'd actually rather it because of that Incisive Plus. And as for Badiashile, he's got no Anticipate at all, which is a little bit unfortunate. Stats are fantastic. Of course, he's got a bruiser, but there's more important things than stats at this stage. But Badiashile, I'm happy to have in the S tier. This Moreira TOTS card, I've got S tier as well. He could have been higher if he was a little bit taller. He is 5'10", so maybe pushing it for me with, you know, you want a little bit taller than that maybe. But look, great playstyle pluses, fantastic stats, but as I said, there's so much more important things in stats now. I'm still happy with Moreira in the S tier. UCL winners Marquinhos, S++. I think he is that step below Pacho, or rather Pacho than Marquinhos. Marquinhos, I'm pretty sure, is a 6 foot flat. So when it comes to it, and you compare to say a Marquinhos and Chalobah, who would I rather? I think I'd maybe lean just towards Chalobah for the height. But that block plus on Marquinhos is really nice. It's really close. Definitely deserves to be in the same tier. And I'd say that, you know, the players in the S++ are all like really tight. Like, you know, some people will say they'll prefer Romero over Chalobah. Others will say they'll say Chalobah over Van Dijk, etc. So I think S++, I'm probably the most happy with that tier so far. Lucas Hernandez, I'm going to say S+ tier, great centre back. He has got a regular Anticipate, if I remember correctly, when I last looked at this card. To be fair, this is one of the cards I don't have a huge amount of experience with. I've not played him too much at all. But he's got a Bruiser Intercept Plus with an Anticipate there. What's he missing? I guess he's maybe missing a block, but as long as your other centre back has a block, maybe a fullback too to compensate, it'll be fine. Now we've got the Arsenal women centre backs here. Now big ups to the Arsenal women. As an Arsenal fan myself, I love it, but I have to say I need height. I need height for my centre backs. I'm gonna say Wabben Moy in the S tier. And look, man, I do think Leah, are they all S tier? Look, I can't just say, you know, they're short, so they're you know, A++ tier, because there are some great short centre backs. I would say they're all S tier, just because their playstyle pluses, their playstyles full stop, fantastic. Their stats, fantastic. But I do think the height is an issue. And if they were all taller, then of course S++. But I do think I will say with these Arsenal women centre backs, I wouldn't use two of them. I'd choose either one of these three if you wanted to get an Arsenal women centre back in. But your other centre back has to be 6'4" plus, like minimum. It has to be a Van Dijk, Chalobah, Tosin type of centre back, because you need height in the defense. And by the looks of it as well, none of them have an aerial plus, which is annoying. I'm not going to say A++ because I feel like that's a little bit strict. We may see, we may change it, who knows. But I'm happy with him in the S tier for now, just because of his sheer quality through stats and play styles. But of course, just a little bit of a red flag with the height. You need to pair them with a taller centre back, or else it just will not work at all. Wendy Renard is like the polar opposite of him. I'm gonna say she's S tier, to be fair. She's the polar opposite in the fact that she is 6'2" as a woman. She is 6'2". I think her Team of the Year and TOTS card both deserve to be S tier, and I was so close to wanting to have her TOTS card in the S+ tier, but the reason I didn't is because her TOTS card doesn't have a bruiser playstyle. Her Team of the Year card does, but it's a step below the TOTS, so I think they're both deserving to be on the same tier, but I think they just miss out on the S+. I think Renard is great. I think she's, to be fair, would I rather have in the Arsenal centre backs? Hey, well, it depends. I think I'd probably rather just have an Arsenal woman centre back and then a much taller centre back. But yeah, Renard, I mean, look, she's like, as I said, the polar opposite, 6'2" as a woman, but I still don't quite think she's a jump into the S+ tier. Stats wise, play styles wise, the Arsenal ladies have got Renard in that category, but of course Renard does in the height. We've got TOTS and Team of the Year, William Saliba. To be honest, I think that's quite easy. I think both of them are in the S++. I do think that step below the best in the game, but still absolutely fantastic. My man, William Saliba, we love it. Pacho next up. Does TOTS Pacho make the S++ tier? You know what? I think he does. I think he does. He's only got a -1 on his 96. Anticipate. Now, let me just double check he's got a regular bruiser. I'll definitely assume he does. I'd be worried if he doesn't. Yeah, he does, with an intercept there as well. I'd be happy to have TOTS Pacho on the S++ tier. Boscagli, I'm going to say Boscagli is in the S tier. Great playstyle pluses on him. But if I remember correctly, his composure and reactions weren't insane. Yeah, they're like both 90 flat. Look, still decent, but I just think there is better cards. Still an S tier centre back though, in my opinion. TOTS Gabriel, you know what? I'm actually tempted to say Gabriel is also S++. Is there Arsenal bias there? I don't know, but I think he deserves to be on the same tier as William Saliba, mainly due to the fact of that bruiser playstyle plus. He's got no, I guess he has got no block. He's got no block, which is annoying. But he's got an intercept, he's got like 3 of the 4 for a centre back if you go anticipate, intercept, block, and bruiser, and one of them is a playstyle plus. Just with how good his dream chases is, I'd be happy to have his TOTS card in the S++ tier. And when it comes to the Dream Chasers card, dude, there's still people using this card now. I'm gonna say he is now an S tier card, but I was using him up until I think the second week of TOTS, which was what? It was League on, then was it Premier League? So I was using him up in like throughout Premier League TOTS, and he was putting the shift in. Upamecano, who's actually being he's my current centre back now, is Upamecano and Rudiger. I've got Upamecano in the S+ tier, and I do think Rudiger is fractionally better. No anticipate at all on Upamecano is annoying, but he's still so good without it. Rudiger though, the anticipate plus for me just puts him just over the line over Upamecano in my opinion. I don't know, they're both my centre backs. It's kind of like, you know, it's so tight. I'd say both Upamecano and Rudiger are actually in the S+ tier. I feel like I can't choose one. Maybe like just Rudiger, but I don't think it's enough for me to want to have Rudiger in a whole new tier, right? TOTS Otamendi in the S tier. I think this is going to be kind of a tier of lots of the cheaper TOTS cards, like Otamendi, who was pretty cheap. He has got an aerial, which is quite handy because he's not the most tall with a 6 foot flat. Yeah, look, a nice cheaper card. I think S tier kind of falls under the Boscagli, Moreira kind of category. I'm going to say Martinez is in the S+ tier, definitely with someone like a Rudiger. Lacroix, hey, is she the first A++? Look, for me, she's the same as the Arsenal ladies. She's 5'8", so you want to pair her with a taller centre back, but those playstyle pluses are fantastic. And unlike the Arsenal ladies, she does actually have an aerial plus to kind of try compensate for that a little bit. I think women's centre backs are very selective. Some people don't mind shorter centre backs. Other people need 2 tall guy centre backs, which is completely valid, just whatever you're happy with. So we'll try find the middle ground, and as I said, I think S tier is fair. Ibanez, I'm actually going to have in the step above the S tier. He may be one of the cheapest cards in the S plus tier. He's only 40k, but look, absolute monster, great play styles, you really cannot complain. Ibanez into the S plus tier. Valentin Gomez, S tier. I do think he's actually better as a left back than he is a centre back, and he is missing a intercept. He's missing an intercept if I remember correctly, but still as a left-sided centre back as he is a left footer, he is going to be really nice, but I do think he is better as a left back fullback than a centre back. I'm still going to say S tier. The only shapeshifters on this list, Douglas Luiz, I've got in the S tier, guys. Now, he can play as a right back and left back, and I do actually think that is his best position. Look, as a centre back, defender, plus, or well, of course, he's a shapeshifter, he can play them all plus, but as a centre back, we'll probably be using him as a defender. Great play styles, stats are ridiculous. But the one bad thing, and I didn't notice this when we did the season pass review, is the fact he's only 5'9". I don't know why, surely I'm not the only one, but I just thought Douglas Luiz was like 6 foot tall. So for me, I'm going to say S tier, pair him up with a taller centre back, but in general, I do think that this card, I would say is better as a right back, but I do wish he had better passing stats. I guess you go for a passing play style with a pings pass. I'd rather this card as a fullback than a centre back, in my opinion. So yeah, Douglas Luiz, S tier. Chouameni, I think is S tier. I still think he does enough to not be in the A++. So yeah, look, about time we had a new Chouameni card. I still think S tier, but I still think he is an S tier worthy card. Jamie Carragher, it feels weird having a Jamie Carragher not in the A++ tier, but this card is actually pretty quality. I have to hand it to EA. He's got the regular anticipate, he's got a block, he's got a bruiser plus, perfect. He can of course play as a centre back defender, insane reactions, insane composure. I do think you could put him in your lineup in a weekend league, maybe next to, you know, an S+ tier centre back, and I don't think it would be too bad. I think you could still get a similar rank to what you're getting now. So I'm going to say an S tier centre back. Georges, I've got in the S tier as well. Stats wise, playstyle plus wise, awesome, but a little bit shorter. So that's kind of, you know, dragging her down a little bit. 94 Lucio, I'm actually going to say is S++ tier. I don't quite think he's best in the game anymore. I'm going to say S++, still fantastic, but I'd just rather the best in the game cards. But yeah, Lucio S++, an absolute monster. Now, we have got 94 Thuram. Thuram. Now, I use him as my fullback. I've got about 100 games on him as my fullback. I've not actually used him as a centre back, so it's kind of a little bit tricky to rank. Now, he's either S+ or he's either S++, and I'm trying to imagine him as a centre back, and I'm going to say this, guys. I've got the Bruiser Plus on him. I added the Bruiser Plus onto him, and I would say with the Bruiser Plus, he'd be S++ tier centre back, but once he doesn't have the Bruiser Plus, I'm going to say S+, but of course if you put that evolution, because we're ranking cards without evolutions, he's 6 foot flat. He can only play as a defender regular plus. Look, I'm gonna say S+, but if you did do like what I did and put the Bruiser Plus on him from last season's season pass, then I'll definitely say that should be S++ tier. I'm gonna say Blanc. Ooh, is he S+ or is he S tier? That's a tricky one. Would I rather him than a Bastoni, a Colwell? I don't think I would. Would I rather a Rudiger or a Martinez? Now that's a little bit closer. He's got bruiser, he's got no intercept. This is the first thing I see. And he's also got no block. I think he could have done with a little bit more play styles, so we're going to say S tier for him. 94 Maldini, how could we forget? I do think 94 Immortals Maldini is in the best in the game tier. It would have been rude not to have Maldini in the best in the game tier, guys. He was just a little bit lower on the list, but we caught up. I do think the 93 Maldini, the Succession's pretty outdated, but he's still an absolute boss, so I'm going to say S+, and that may seem a little bit low for a 93 Maldini, but I just think, you know, one singular playstyle plus, it's a jockey. If anything, I think it's high in terms of what the card looks like, but of course Maldini tax, eye contact, he performs above his stats. I will say the 92 Maldini is a step above the 93, with an intercept plus, he's got a quick step plus there. Now this 92 does fit an evolution as well. If you put him into that evolution, would I say he makes a jump into the best in the game? Maybe. Either that or the higher end of the S++ if we were doing it in order. But I'd say the 92 I would rather than the 93. Of course, for 92 Maldini was the Golden Cup Game Mode Maldini. 94 Dan Burn, I'm going to say S+. I think he's a cheap man's Tosin. I do think Tosin is better. But I think this Dan Burn, absolute monster, 6'7", I think. He's got an inch on Tosin, and also an aerial. Like, what is it with them giving an aerial to almost like, 7-foot players? What's the point? But at the same time, it's cool. It kind of solidifies the fact he's just not losing an aerial duel. 94 Baresi, S tier. Does he hold on to the S tier? A little bit of a shorter centre back, great stats, great play styles. That's the theme of S tier. Alexandro, I'm going to say S tier, no bruiser, and also no... What's the other one he's missing? No bruiser, something else. He's got anticipate, intercept, no bruiser, and no block. But still a nice cheaper card. I've still not got an A++. Don't worry though. There is going to be a couple players here that I have saved for the A++ tier. But yeah, I'm happy with Alexandro in the S tier. This Esteve card, do I think he is a step above Alessandro? I do, but I also think he is just more of the S tier as well. Like, he's closer to the S tier type of players than the S+ tier. Team of the season, Chalobah, I'm going to say S tier as well. I did use him in a cup. I think he was a nice card. Still think he's an S tier centre back, and I think it's time for a reminder. S tier doesn't mean that bad, because there's quite a few quality centre backs in here, but I just don't think they're as good as the S+. And for me, I don't think Chalobah makes that jump into the S+ category with your like Ibanez, Bastoni, Colwell, Upamecano, Rudiger section, etc. But yeah, I did use Chalobah in the cup, and he was quite nice. He was pretty good. He got the job done. TOTS Jonathan Tah, I'm happy to say S++ tier, guys. Pings pass, anticipate, bruiser. He's got a power header, which, I mean, headers aren't insane this year anyway, but still Jonathan Tah in the S++ tier. S tier, without a doubt, is the most popular tier here, the most common one. And I mean, that makes the most sense. I think it almost always is, right? If we had every tier list, I'd say on average, the S tier is always the most populated one. I'm going to say Hincapi's TOTS card in the S tier. Kim Min-jae, to be fair, I'm going to say S tier, but to his credit, I do think he's probably got the best shout, or one of the best shouts in the S tier, to maybe make that jump into the S+. I've played him a couple times. Anticipate, intercept plus is always a lovely playstyle plus combination to have for a centre back, especially when they have a regular block and bruiser as well. A good friend Alessandro here, I'm going to say S tier as well. This Jimenez card, honestly, could have been higher if he had better composure and better reactions. A flat 87 at this stage, you want to see lower to mid 90s at the minimum. But yeah, great play styles, and anticipate plus could have been nice as well. But in general, it's a nice card. An aerial plus there, 6'1" is nice. Looking at this as well, guys, honestly, I do want to move Kim Min-jae up to the S+ tier. To be honest, I want to move Kim Min-jae up to the S+ tier. Finally, our first A++ tier card, Ruben Dias. He's got an anticipate bruiser, great combination to have, but a foot birthday, simply more stats-wise specifically, maybe just on that outdated side. Pascal Struck, S tier. I think this is a really underrated card. Great selection of playstyle pluses, a left-footed centre back into the S tier. Kabasi, S tier as well. Carlos Alberto, now is he S tier or is he A++ as well? I do think he is better as a centre back, as a right back, because of that relentless. I think we're at the stage of the game now. I'm sorry, pal, but I think Carlos Alberto is also going to be joining Ruben Dias in the A++ tier. Yeah, look, I think the relentless and anticipate is really nice if you were to use him as a fullback. I think you'd still do a shift as a fullback, but as a centre back, not quite in my opinion, not quite anymore. 92, Rio Ferdinand, is he S++ or is he the S+ tier? Now, of course, this evolution is available, which we do not include in it, but at the same time, it's not an ideal boost for a defender anyway. But of course, excluding evolutions and aerial anticipate, he's got a bruiser regular, no block, but still 90 composure, reactions could be a bit higher. I'm going to say Rio for the pure factor of its Rio tax. And, you know, like, I'll be happy to say this 92 Rio is the same tier as a 93 Maldini, but I don't quite think he breaks into the S++ tier. 92 Pavard is going to be the third player joining the A++ tier. Look, I still think a nice cheap option if you're maybe on a road to glory, but at the same time, I'd much rather pick up a cheaper TOTS card that I have listed in the S tier, like a Esteve, Schlotterbeck, Oskagli, Otamendi, etc. Desailly, honestly, with a Desailly centre-back card, it feels strict to say A++, so we'll have him in the S tier not the S plus, the S tier for now. He has got all 4 of those defensive play styles, which I think are really important for a centre back, which we mentioned earlier, along with a great composure and reactions. Look, he may not look the prettiest, 2 play style pluses, no anticipate, stats just not mind-blowing, nothing special if you will. But I do think when you actually dig a bit deeper, the body type, the DSIE, the play styles, I'm going to say S tier. I'm going to say S tier for him. Jan Vertonghen, S tier. He has a free card from objectives. Look, they boosted him up quite a bit. And I think that's enough for him to avoid the A++ tier. The final stretch here, guys, with 3 cards left. We've got this 91 Jap Stam. I'm still happy to say he's S+ tier. Could you even make a debate that he's still S++ type of player? Look, he's absolutely awesome in game. I think lots of the factor of him being 800k is because of this build your TOTS evolution, which gives him an anticipate plus. So this 91, once again, we exclude evolutions in our ranking. So I'm going to say that this 91 rated Jap Stam is S+ tier. But if you guys were to go ahead and put him into this build your TOTS evolution, then I think without a doubt he jumps to maybe not even the S++, he might even jump to the best in the game. Because we all know how good Jap Stam was earlier on in the game in that sense. Sol Campbell, I'm happy to say S+ as well. I think he deserves to be in the same category as a Rio, Stam, Martinez, Rudiger, etc. And then Ronald Araujo, he is a grassroots great, but is it kind of more on the outdated side where I'm going to say A++ tier? Look, I think it may have to be. So we did make one change, guys. If we move Bastoni or Bastoni from the S+ tier to the S++. Simply put, I think if we've got a Tah, Pacho, etc., Gabriel, I think he's on that caliber of players. Now, you may be thinking Caldwell should be higher, and I'm gonna say, as a fullback, I just think a left back is his best position, because this incisive is a centre back. I think using an incisive in the centre back position is really risky, right? Because if you mess it up, I don't like it. It's not good. Incisive from a centre back position is not a long ball, awesome. A long ball, a pinged pass, awesome. Incisive is the last playmaking or passing playstyle plus you want to have as a centre back. So I'm going to say this incisive I'm kind of ignoring, and it's really just an aerial and intercept in the centre back duties. I'm going to say Caldwell is a centre back. I'm going to keep him in the S+ tier. But as mentioned, I think he'd be a fantastic fullback, okay? A fantastic left back, fullback with that incisive playstyle plus down the line to your winger. Now then we are cooking. Anyways, the best in the game tier, we got Van Dijk, Tosin, Pacho, and 94 Maldini, the usual suspects. The S+ tier, so still absolutely top tier centre backs. You got Team of the Year, Foot Birthday Van Dijk in there with a Europa League winners Romero, Van de Ven, Chalobah. Now I would say if you were to have a debate, yes, you could say maybe Romero, Van de Ven, Chalobah, Marquinhos, etc. into the best in the game, but I still think I would rather all of the cards in the best in the game than those. But look, I think that just comes down to personal preference. I do think an anticipate plus is maybe missing on a Van de Ven. And as for Romero, I don't know. Romero, to be fair, if I was to choose one player to jump to the best in the game, it would be Romero. Let's say 2 players, Romero and Chalobah could make that jump to the best in the game tier. But I'm happy with them in the S++. I think they're closer to the S++ caliber of players, but yeah, it's really close. Look, if you've got any centre backs that are S++ or higher, you'll be absolutely fine, guys, all right? You'll be absolutely fine. S+ tier, Caldwell, Hernandez, these type of players, Upa, Martinez, Rudiger, some nice cards here. Dan Burn, 6'6" or 6'7" with an aerial. 93 Maldini, look, maybe on a bit more of an outdated side, but it's still Maldini. He's got that Maldini aura about him. Jap Stam as well, kind of, I'd say Maldini, Ferdinand, and Stam, they all three of them fall into the category of a little bit on the outdated side, but they're still going to be great centre backs. And you put them into an evolution. I'm pretty sure Maldini fits an evolution too, and they all just jump up a tier, right? The S tier, you got Van Dijk, you got Beckenbauer, who I just not too used. I think he's more of like a deep lying playmaker DM, which I think he might be able to play a DM as well, you know. But yeah, still really some really nice cards in the S tier. You've got some of the woman cards with great stats, play styles, maybe height, dragging them down a little bit. But the S tier, the most populated tier without a doubt. And then the A++, simply the more outdated cards. So let me know what you guys agree and disagree with. As I said, if you want to say Romero, Van de Ven, Chalobah, etc. should make that jump into the best in the game, that's completely fair. But I do think with Maldini, and the big thing with Maldini as well, maybe he looks out of place if you look at just his stats, etc. Or, you know, you just have a face look at him. but there's so much more than that. For me, in my experience of gameplay, and let me know if you guys agree, do you think icons perform better than their stats suggest? Because I do. And what I really narrow that down to, because there has to be an explanation, why do icons perform better than their stats suggest? My simple explanation of that is animations and AI. Maldini has his own unique animations, his own unique AI, and for me, all of the icons that have that unique animation, an R9, Maldini, etc., for me are just that step above a regular card. For example, if you gave me this 94 rated card, the exact same stats, exact same height, exact same playstyles, but it was a random English guy called Tim, right? I would still say just Maldini would just be better in game. He's got that feel about him, he's got the AI, the movement, and that's really what you narrow it down to. For me, is the animations that Maldini does have over non-icon cards, which makes them so special. So yeah, but anyways, if you guys did enjoy, enough waffling, and I'll see you all in, we'll probably give it a few weeks break, maybe a couple weeks break, and then we go again, start from the top. We'll be a couple weeks into shapeshifters, striker tier list, left wing, we work our way back down to the pitch, back down the pitch. But yeah, hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one.